Okay. So see, yesterday we started this reusable alert box component, right? In that component, we have created two properties, alert type and alert message. These are nothing but properties, but in front of them, we have added this input. Means we wherever we are using this component, we can pass the data to this variable. Okay. So if you see, we have used this component into our user component like this and in our vendor component also. Okay. Now, so see over here in alert type, what we are doing here, we are passing the value in the HTML only, right? So if I remove this single quote, what it is doing, why we are getting the error? What might be the error?
In a component class, we didn't declare any
Right?
variable
So
by the
if you
name
don't
success.
pass single quote now, what it will does, it will try to find like this variable name exists in our component or not. Got it? As I said, for an input property, if you want to pass a string value directly from the HTML, so you will be doing that in a single quote. If you don't write the single quote inside double quote, now it will try to find like if success name variable is there or not. Like in user component, see, we have passed this like this. Understood, Sagar now? So if you have to pass the value directly from the HTML, you will be using single quote inside double quote. But if you got that value in a variable, then you can directly pass there. In case of variable, you don't need single quote. You can directly use the variable name. Clear, Sagar?
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay. All join. Okay. Fine. So हमने इनपुट कंपोनेंट चालू किया था मतलब रियूजेबल कंपोनेंट सो इन रियूजेबल कंपोनेंट वी हैव क्रिएटेड टू प्रॉपर्टीज alert type and alert message and this variable we are using over here in the HTML. Okay, so if we go to the vendor component, see we are getting success and welcome to vendor page, and because it's a success, so we are getting green color also, right? Now same case in the user component, we have passed the alert type as danger and the message also, and since it's a danger, so we have got danger color also. The dynamic color we are adding, dynamic class we are adding by comparing the alert type. So if alert type is equal to success, we are adding alert success, otherwise alert danger class. So dynamic class we were adding. Okay, clear till now?
Yes.
Okay, let's create another reusable component. So this was the first we created. Now one more. Again, Bootstrap only we will follow because in Bootstrap only we have so many reusable things which we can create. What was the error we were having? Property success. Okay. Somewhere we removed, I think. Fine. So in Bootstrap, there is a component that is button group. Okay. So it's just like three buttons grouped together. Okay. So see, we have a parent div where button group class is there, and inside that we will have a button. So these buttons will look like they are grouped. Okay. Now I have to create a reusable component where I can have a structure like this. Okay. What might be the benefit of having this structure? और कहाँ कहाँ पे हम यूज कर सकते हैं ऐसा? एनीवन?
Many bar,
हम्म?
many bar.
In different forms component.
नहीं, आई एम आस्किंग सिनेरियो. What will be the scenario where we can use this kind of button? Let's say,
In single div.
no, I'm not asking that. See,
Sir,
let's say
many
you
bar.
have an menu bar is a one thing. You let's say you have a employee form. In employee form, you have employee detail, family detail, project detail, contact detail. So many details are there, and you want to categorize those details. Okay, instead of having a long form, you just want to categorize the data. Okay, so
In a
there,
panel, right? You mean by panels?
right, kind of panel. So you will show this button, and here instead of Apple, let's say basic. If you click on basic, only basic information visible. If you click on contact information, only contact information will be visible. If you click on family detail, only family detail will be visible. Understood?
So
Kind of
in that
tab.
case, there gonna be the list of items, right? Not
No,
buttons.
no, no. See, this is just a way where we are going to hide and show the things. Let's say at the bottom you have big form, label text box, label text, and there you have the employee form. But instead of showing that whole form, you are just hiding and showing something based on the selection of this button. Now getting?
Yes.
Okay. And apart from that, if we click on Sansom, this button should be get selected. It should have a different color. That thing also we are going to do. In the task also you have the same scenario. Like wherever you click, that button gets selected. So that scenario also we will cover. Okay. Understood the scenario now where we use this kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. Now, if I have to create a reusable component of this, what's the input I will be needing? कौन सा क्या टाइप का डेटा हम सेंड करेंगे इस कंपोनेंट को?
Name of buttons first.
Name of buttons, right? How many buttons I need? So it will be a what do we
Array
say?
of string.
Array of string, na? Because we cannot restrict. If we are creating something that is reusable, so we have to think of everything possible. Let's say we didn't pass the array of string and we decided only three buttons and three variables we created, three input, and we passed that. Let's say in one page we need four buttons, right? So this button should be also dynamic. So we will pass array of string. Okay. Let's create the component first.
But we can also pass array of object if we have to
Yeah, array of
manipulate
object.
the
Array of object also.
uh,
Na? Let's say you
for a
need
color
some
based, like
color also.
different.
Right. Again, our logic will change. Okay. Let's say ng generate component button group. Okay. Now in my component, we need the basic UI. Fine. So we have created our reusable component. Now inside that I need an input. So let's say at the rate input, our input name will be button list. It will be array of string. By default, I'm initializing as empty. Fine. So this is our first input button list. Now this button list variable has array of string. So we will use it instead of this static. We will use at the rate for loop on this, and this button will go inside the for loop so that whatever the array of item we received, that much time button will be created dynamically. Okay. Now whatever the button title is there, that we will print it over here like this. Understood the logic? So what we have created an array, and that array we are using to iterate the button. So let's say we have received two buttons, so two times button will be created. If we received five buttons, five string of array, so five times button will be created. Okay. So our reusable logic is done. Half the logic. Now if we go to the user component, let's say after this button, I will use app hyphen button group. Okay. So this is my component. Import will be automatically added. See. Okay. Now, so to this reusable component, we just have one input, that is button list. Say it is suggesting also. If you press control space, it is suggesting the whatever the input it has. Currently only one input equal to what type of data it needs. This input, what type of data it needs?
String of array.
See, string of array. So square bracket, one element, two element, three element, four element. Okay, instead either you can create the array over here or you can create a variable and then pass it over here. Both things are fine. Okay, so over here let's say basic info, then we have contact info, then let's say project, or let's say current project, and let's say old projects. Okay. Now if we save and check in the user component, see, we got different tabs.
Mm.
Understood?
Yes.
Let's do the same thing in vendor also. Now in vendor, let's create row, column 12. Let's add a text center class so that buttons will come in the center. App hyphen button group. Now instead of creating array over here, I will be creating a variable, and that variable I will pass it over there. My button list colon data type string array is equal to array. First element, let's say new form, comma list. So two buttons I will be needing, new form and the list. And this variable I will be passing over here as a input parameter. So understood now? If you want to pass the data in the HTML itself, you can directly pass it over here like this. Okay. But if you have the data in some variable, that you can use it over here like this. Let's save and check. So if we go to the vendor, you see new form and the list buttons are coming. In user, same component is displaying 4 buttons. So whatever how many buttons you need in respective component, those many buttons array you will pass it. Okay. This is the half work done. Now, once I click on it, okay, let's use the vendor. Let's say if I click on new form, only new form UI should be visible. If I click on list, only list should be visible. That is the task we are going to do. Now, these buttons, ये buttons कहाँ से आ रही है अपनी reusable component से. So if I clicked over here, how my parent component will know that I have clicked on new form or list button. So now we are going to pass, if we click, now we are going to pass data from child component to parent component. Otherwise, how you will know na, that which button got clicked, right? So if I click on list, then I need to send data back to the parent component. Means from child component, we are going to pass the data to the parent component. So here we are going to use output. What's the use of input? From parent component to child component, if we have to pass the data, we have to use input. But vice versa, from in child component to parent component, if we have to pass some data, we have to use output. Okay. Now let's write the output. Now, just like input, we have to create at the rate output round bracket our output name. Output is nothing but a kind of a event. You will be emitting the event. Okay. So that will be on button clicked is equal to. So here we have to store event emitter. We are, as I said, we are going to emit the event. हम emit event send करने वाले हैं back to the parent component, and along with the event we will be passing the data. So new event emitter we have to write. What type of data we are going to send? String. So this is your output. आउटपुट ऐसा दिखता है. एट द रेट आउटपुट, हमारे आउटपुट का नाम, जैसे हम यहाँ पे लिख रहे थे ना वेरिएबल का नाम, वैसे हमारे आउटपुट का नाम. बट जैसे मैंने बोला कि हम फंक्शन एविट करने वाले हैं, तो मेक इट लुक लाइक, इट शुड नॉट लुक लाइक अ वेरिएबल नेम. ऑन बटन क्लिक, ऑन चेंज, इवेंट का नाम जैसे होना चाहिए. ओके. इज इक्वल टू व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू स्टोर हियर, न्यू इवेंट एमिटर. Whatever the type of data you are going to send, that data type you need to pass it over here. Currently we are going to send the string. If you are going to pass the array, object, number, boolean, right? Whatever the type of data you know that you are going to send along with this in output, that data type you need to provide it over here. Fine. So this is how you create the output. Then from your reusable component, on click of this button, on on button select, just a function name I'm giving. So on click of this button, I will be creating this. I will be calling this function. Let's create this. Now from this function, when I'm clicking on this button, if I don't have any parameter, will I get to know like which button got clicked? We need some parameter, right? Item we will pass it over. Then only we will get to know like which button got clicked. Correct now? See, this button is inside the for loop. How we will know like which button got clicked? So for that we need to pass the button so that whatever the button, it's a dynamic button inside the for loop, right? So whatever the item means whatever the button name we have got, so we will get to that over here. So that's why I'm passing item over here. Now the button name, whatever the button name we have got, that we will get it over here as a parameter. Data type will be string. Now this button name, whatever the button name we got, that we need to emit by using the output on button clicked. This is our output name. Dot emit is the function. And in emit, we have to pass whatever the parameter name we get. See, what we have created? We have created output first. Okay. Then on a button, we write one event. And while calling this event, we are passing the item, means button name. And that button name we will get it over here, and that we are emitting with the output. So this dot our output name dot emit और अपने बटन का नाम, ये हमारे चाइल्ड कंपोनेंट का कोड हुआ. अब पेरेंट कंपोनेंट में, अब देखो यहाँ पे ये कंट्रोल स्पेस अगर करता हूँ तो देखो अपने पास एक इनपुट है, तो इनपुट आ रहा है और ये आउटपुट है. राउंड ब्रैकेट में अपन क्या लिखते हैं? किसी कोई भी एलिमेंट पे राउंड ब्रैकेट में अपन क्या लिखते हैं? व्हाट डू वी राइट इन राउंड ब्रैकेट?
इवेंट इवेंट
देखो ना
इवेंट
जैसे यहाँ पे क्लिक क्या है? इवेंट है. तो वैसे ही मैंने जैसे बोला कि ये नथिंग बट कंसीडर करो ये तुम्हारा एलिमेंट है, इस एलिमेंट की ये प्रॉपर्टी है और ये इवेंट है. ओके. अब मतलब ये एलिमेंट में ऐसा कंसीडर करो जैसे टी एच एक है, बटन एक एलिमेंट है, वैसा ही एक एलिमेंट है. तो ये एलिमेंट जब ट्रिगर, ये इवेंट जब ट्रिगर होगा तो तुम्हारे कंपोनेंट का एक इवेंट लगेगा ना. जैसे यहाँ पे देखो क्लिक इवेंट अगर ट्रिगर होता है तो ये फंक्शन आप कॉल करते हो, right? Same like that, if this event get triggered, you need to call a function from your parent component. So on tab change, I'm giving separate name. And when I'm executing this function, see, when I'm calling this function, when I'm emitting the function, I'm passing some data. So this data we have to catch, and while catching that data we have to always write dollar event. Okay. So whatever the data we are emitting from our child component, we will get that over here. Okay. So let's write this event in our parent component. Selected button name colon string. And we will create a variable over here. Selected tab name data type string is equal to empty. Whatever the value we get from our child component, that we will store it over here. Let me just add a debugger everywhere, then you will understand the flow. Here also I'm adding a debugger in the parent component. In child component also I'm adding the debugger. Fine. Just see now. And this variable selected tab item, I will print it also in our HTML after this. So that you will know data passed from the child component we will receive in the parent component in this variable. Fine. So see now. So if I click vendor only, where is it? Yeah. If I click on the list, first my event from our child component get triggered. See, here we got the button name list. And from our child component function, we are emitting our output. And along with output, we are emitting the, means we are emitting the output. But along with that, we are passing the name also. So once I continue from over here, our parent component function will trigger. See, on tab change. And here we got the data. Now, whatever the data we pass from our child component, we got that data into our parent component. And now this data we are storing into our local variable. See over here list. If I click on new form, again our child component function got triggered. New form, we are emitting the event. While emitting, we are passing the data also. If I continue from over here, our parent component function will trigger. Here we got the data. That data we are again storing to the variable. See, understood the flow now? So these buttons are in our child component. So once we click on it, on click of that button from our child function, we are emitting the data by using output. And that output we are catching. So wherever we are using it in the HTML, so there we are catching that event like this. And since we know while emitting this function, we are passing some data. To catch that, we have to write $event. And in this function, we will get that data. Now I can use this variable. So to hide and show the list. So here, let's say at the rate if condition, if this variable has list in it, we will show this div where we have a table, and if and else to that. In else, we will show this call for. Instead of call for, we can now go with call 12. So see now realistic example. Okay. So if I click on list, see, understood? This is the practical example. Okay. क्लियर है सबको? तो हम आउटपुट ऐसे क्रिएट करते हैं, फिर हमारा जो बटन था जिसके क्लिक पे हमें आउटपुट एमिट करना था, उस पे हमने नॉर्मल बटन पे ऊपर नॉर्मल फंक्शन लिखा, फंक्शन कॉल किया, और फंक्शन कॉल करते वक्त मैंने क्या डेटा सेंड करना है वो डेटा भी भेज दिया। फिर इस फंक्शन में दिस डॉट हमारे आउटपुट का नाम एमिट, और एमिट क्या कर रहे हैं अपन, बटन। ये ऑप्शनल है, आउटपुट के साथ डेटा भेजो नहीं भेजो डजेंट मैटर, राइट। दिस इज ऑप्शनल, वी कैन पास द डेटा ऑल्सो और वी कैन नॉट पास द डेटा ऑल्सो, fine, but we have to pass the data because that's our logic. So while emitting the output we are passing the data. Now parent component में जहाँ पे तुम तुम्हारा component use कर रहे हो, input will be like in square bracket and output will be like in round bracket. So once this event get triggered from your child component, you need some function to be triggered in response to this. Just like हम click करते हैं, राइट, क्लिक नथिंग बट इवेंट ही है ना, क्लिक इवेंट होने के बाद अपने को एक फंक्शन लगता है। सेम लाइक दैट, वंस दिस बटन गॉट क्लिक, we need to trigger this event. And since while emitting this event we are passing some data, so that data we have to catch like this. So data sent from child component we will get it over here in the parent component. Understood?
एक सर ये सेव करते एक विंडो पॉपअप होता है ना, ये राइट का निशान लगता है जहाँ ये सेव हो गया है, तो थोड़ा विजिबल बढ़िया लगता है।
No, I didn't get your question. Repeat
सर
करो। कौन सा?
फॉर्म सेव करते हैं ना, जैसे ये फॉर्म सबमिट किया सेव किया तो ये सक्सेसफुल आता है, लेकिन
हाँ
ये विंडो आ जाए जिसमें ये थोड़ा यूं एनिमेशन टाइप आ जाएगी सेव।
हाँ, तो वो उसके लिए हम वो स्वीट अलर्ट हो या फिर टोस्टर हो वो
हाँ,
लाइब्रेरी यूज करते हैं। ये
अच्छा,
जस्ट अपन ने दिखाने के लिए किया ना।
यूजर को लगता है कि हाँ सेव हो गया।
हाँ, तो वो अपन स्वीट अलर्ट या फिर टोस्टर मैसेज यूज करते हैं,
अच्छा,
लाइब्रेरी या टोस्टर। ओके।
जी, ओके।
अब वन मोर थिंग बची है कि जिस बटन पे क्लिक हूं मैं, जो मेरी एक्टिव बटन है उसको मुझे डायनामिक कलर भी लगाना है। तो हमारा जो टास्क था एनजी क्लास में देखे होगे, ये था ना, जिस बटन पे क्लिक कर रहा हूँ वो सिलेक्टेड रहता है। अब ये क्लास, उसमें अंदर ये भी था, जिस रो को क्लिक कर रहा हूँ वो रो सिलेक्टेड है। अगर तुमने ये किया रहता तो सेम लॉजिक यहाँ पे भी है, बट यहाँ पे तुम्हें कुछ नेम या फिर जेंडर या फिर कुछ तो भी स्टोर करना पड़ेगा यूनिक। यहाँ पे जैसे अपन ने नेम स्टोर किया होगा। ओके, तो वो लॉजिक देख लो अभी। सो अब लॉजिक कहाँ पे लिखेंगे, रियूजेबल कंपोनेंट में, राइट। सो व्हाट वी नीड टू डू, whenever user is clicking on a particular button, so we need to store his selection. Otherwise how we will know na, like which button got clicked. So we need to store his selection. So we will create a normal variable selected button text. Data type will be string. By default it will be empty. Fine. So in this variable we will store the value to this variable also. So what's button user has selected, so that value we are getting in this variable. Now this we can use it in our HTML. So instead of this static thing, let's make it property binding. So if select, what's the variable name we have used? Selected button text. So if selected button text equal to item, we are comparing with the item because that's iterating, correct? If this is one class, otherwise. So see, if we are in the for loop, if this variable has same name of the for loop item, it will add success color, otherwise primary color. Let's save. So if I click on new form, see, let's go to user. See, understood? Now button selection, whatever the button user has selected, that class is dynamically added. Understood? See, one more thing. In user component, in vendor component, we are using input also and output also. But in user component, we are not using the output. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So let's say in one component you have two or three outputs, but in one component you can only use one or two, or you can if you don't want to use any output of that component also, it's okay. It won't break. Okay. So understood the logic of this selection. So same concept we have to use it over here and over here also. Clear?
Sir,
Hmm.
just click on this vendor component, right?
If you
Hello.
no repeat your question.
Sir, open this vendor page. Actually, I saw there hyphen hyphen um, in the curly braces there is some property. So
Where?
the, in the
Here?
vendor HTML vendor.
Which one?
Okay.
Which file?
Vendor component, yes.
Vendor component. Okay.
Here.
This is
In the
the variable. See, in this function, in parent component, we have created a variable, right? So whatever the value name we are getting from the output, that we are storing it over here, and that only I have printed it over here.
oh, sorry,
See,
hyphen
this
okay.
here you will get the variable value. Understood?
I thought what hyphen used for the comment or whatever.
Hyphen just I need to see like what value we are getting. No? That's why I added hyphen. It's not required.
Okay.
Okay.
Sir, can you explain this format in this Angular? Because in the .NET, it is like a for loop, initialization, after this
Mhm.
condition, then
Yeah. So
increment.
see, here for loop is something different. In JavaScript also we have a same structure of this for loop. But basically it's a for loop. Just the writing syntax. In .NET we have for each loop.
Yes.
This is same like that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Basically it's a for loop. Just syntax is little bit different. We don't access element by its index. We get directly the element. Okay. We are not
Okay.
accessing the particular element by its index. We are directly getting the element. Okay.
Okay. It is for loop.
For each loop.
Each. Oh, for it.
Kind of a
Got it.
for each loop. Okay. Anyone have any question?
Sir,
Yeah.
in parent like in parent component
Hmm.
अब like हम कितना like child component यूज कर सकते like is
कितने
उसका
भी
कुछ
देर इज
like
नो लिमिट
okay
ये सेम कंपोनेंट हम कितने भी बार यूज कर सकते हो यही के एक ही पैरेंट कंपोनेंट में
okay
ओके ये सेम कंपोनेंट आप कितने भी बार यूज कर सकते हो एक ही पैरेंट कंपोनेंट में मल्टीपल अलग अलग कंपोनेंट भी कितने भी यूज कर सकते हो देर इज नो लिमिट ओके देखो जब भी ऐसा डाउट आता है ना, करके देखा करो, करके देखोगे तो तब वो याद रहता है कि यार एवरीथिंग इज पॉसिबल। जो पॉसिबल नहीं है तब एरर आएगा ना,
Yes, sir.
राइट?
Yes,
सो
sir.
अनलेस यू ट्राई टू क्रिएट दैट और ट्राई टू यूज लाइक दैट, यू वोंट गेट दैट क्लियर। करके देखा करो तो वो समझेगा कि नहीं, दिस इज ऑल्सो पॉसिबल। ओके,
Yes, yes, sir.
fine. Now from bootstrap, what we can do? Progress bar. Okay. Now, in so many application, when we work on a project, we have some scenarios where we have to show the progress. Okay. So, if we have to create a reusable component of this progress bar, how many input we will need in it? We will be needing what? How many input we will be needing? Hmm? I'm telling you, like, let's say I want to create a reusable progress bar component. So how many inputs I will be needing? क्या क्या डेटा
First,
भेजोगे,
here we need a percentage.
right? How many percentage? What's the progress? What's the percentage you have to show? Second, second,
The component
Time.
where we
color,
show
na,
that color. Yeah,
right?
that
So
panel
see,
thing.
as in when we say reusable, everything should be configurable. Nothing should be static. Okay. Let's say in one component you want to use the red one, in one component you want to use the blue one or something. So you cannot keep on creating multiple reusable components, na? One with red color and one with green color. Your only component should be like that. Okay. Nothing should be static in your reusable component. Everything should be dynamic. I should be able to configure everything. That's the real meaning of reusable. Nothing is static. Everything I can change. Okay. Let's create quickly.
Then we can also pass the CSS properties as well.
Yeah, anything. Either you will pass like this complete width, or you will just pass the percentage value. Anything. Okay. It's just input. Let's create one more. ng generate component progress bar. See, as I said yesterday also, in actual project, if it's an enterprise project is very big. It has so many flows and everything. So there will be tons of reusable component. Even for text box also you will have one component. Buttons also you will have component. They won't they won't want you to create a text box also. Use their text box only, because a look and feel they have already managed over there. Okay. Everything will be reusable component only. Now, so in progress bar, first we need that HTML. Wait, how do we show that? Okay, BG only. So this is our static progress bar. Now we will need the input. So at the rate input, and I is capital, okay? Don't use the small one. If you write suggestion, small input will be also coming, right? But we have to use the capital one. What it will be? Progress value. We can either go with string or number, doesn't matter. I'm going with empty. Then second input at the rate input. We can ask directly for the class name, like red, danger, warning, whatever the class name we
Sir,
have, that we can ask.
this input is a class, right?
This,
This input, the
yeah,
capital I one.
class name means
A
alert.
small one is property, right?
Small one is, I think, interface is there. Let's see. Accept to fewer given user decorator. Did you mean to call it first and right unsupported call to the input function? No, this is something else.
Okay.
Okay. Hmm. Okay. So we created two variables. So progress value, we have to now whatever the value we get in this variable, that we need to bind it over here. So how do we bind the dynamic style to this div?
With
How
ng
do
class.
ng class, how you can bind the dynamic style?
ng style.
ng style, na? ng class, you can just bind the dynamic classes. If you want to provide the dynamic style, you will use ng style, right? So let's import ng style. Now instead of this, you'll be using square bracket ng style. In ng style, how do we write? What I have to write inside double quote? Anyone remember?
Curly braces.
Curly braces, okay? Then width colon property plus we have to provide the symbol also %. Okay, this is
That's
one
in
way.
style, right? In
Yeah, in
inline
ng style.
CSS.
Yeah. So this is one way. If we have to provide a dynamic CSS, this is one way by using ng style. But let's say if you don't want to use ng style, okay, so you can use normal style also. Sorry, property binding. So that is like style dot width dot. Now width has a unit, either px or %. So we have to provide %, and then you can directly provide the value also. Okay, and this value I will be printing it over here so that we can show the percentage. Here also I will do the same thing.
We can also do ng class or no?
See, here we have to provide a dynamic width, na? Width is a CSS. Is it a class? No, na?
No,
This is a class.
but we
Okay.
can put this width property in a class by making
So
a
how many
class.
class you will create? It can be 1%, 2%, 90%. So many different width we will get. So how you will create a class?
Oh,
This is the structure, na? Width can be dynamic, % value. How you will create a class of it? Right? It can be anything, na?
yes.
So that's why we have to go with style only. Now,
Mhm.
then second variable we have this class name. So this class name we will add it over here. So either again we can go with ng class or class name also. But now with class name we cannot go. Okay, because we don't have either or, right? We are going to get directly the class name. So we will use ng class over here. That ng class. Directly class name we are getting, right? So this we will add it over here. Fine. So this is our reusable component. Now let's use it. So where we have our for loop component. What's the component for loop? Control flow statement. Now in our array, we have this student list, right? So what I will do, I will add one more property over here, %. Okay. So what I have did in student list array, I have added a field that is %. Now in our HTML, we might be using a table, right? So inside this table, I will add one more column. Let's say th %. Now in second td, I will be using my app dot progress bar component. Okay. Now to this child component, I have to pass the value. So progress value is equal to what I will pass it over here. Now we are inside the for loop. Okay, one more variation. It's not like that reusable component you can use it outside only. Inside for loop also you can use it. Now value will be passing from stud dot, what's the variable name? %. So inside for loop we are using that progress bar, and for every student a different progress bar will be visible with different value. Okay, then class name we need. So let's say bg warning. Let's save and check. Control. So see 12, 12, 45. Both the progress bar are behaving the same. Either why I have added 2, just wanted to show you that this will also work and this will also work. Okay, understood? So see, Sham has 100%, so progress bar is 100%. Understood? Let's use the same thing in our vendor component. Let's say after this dot call 6. In call 6, I will be using progress bar, progress value, let's say 40% I have to use. Okay. Then last name, BG, primary. Okay. In one more call 6, I will be using the same progress bar. Here I will say 75 and here I will say success. So in same component, I'm using my reusable component 2 times. Vendor. See, here I got 40% and here I got 75, but with different color also. Understood? Let's comment 1. Clear? Now, do we need any output in this component in progress bar? Is there any need of output? आउटपुट की जरूरत है क्या इस कंपोनेंट में, प्रोग्रेस बार कंपोनेंट में?
No, sir.
इनपुट की, राइट? कुछ है ही नहीं ना, क्या वापस भेजोगे कंपोनेंट के पास? देयर इज नथिंग टू सेंड इट बैक टू द पैरेंट कंपोनेंट. No click, no event can be there, right? So this is also one of the examples. So as I said, like so many examples are there for reusable thing. You cannot imagine like that. Okay.
Sir, but in the real environment, it is the progress bar is updating, right?
In
Updates
real,
is, yeah, increment level, right?
your
Suppose
voice is repeat one
I'm
second.
audible.
Hmm.
In the real environment, it is works like in progress. In the real environment, it is increasing or decreasing the progress bar, right?
Yeah, it's, see
How it,
what value we have in the variable, like that it will increase or decrease, right? Let's say in vendor component I will be creating a variable. Okay. Percent colon string I will be assigning with empty. I have created a variable. Okay. Let's add our forms module. Now I will be binding this variable to a text box. Okay. Input square bracket ng model round bracket ng. Okay. And this variable I will be passing over here to the second column. So see, by default, we don't have any progress over here. If I say 20, understood? This was your confusion? Whatever the value you have that you are passing, like that progress bar will behave.
okay?
Understood?
Yes.
Clear everyone? Anyone having any doubt? So as I said, there are so many, what do we say, reusable component. This is also you can create. This is a list box. Okay, in while working on a any application now, we if there is a selection we need that user have to select something. Either we can go for a drop down, but if forms are more interactive, instead of drop down, you will have selection box like this, and you will click on it, and that item will get selected. So same logic, whatever we have done, like this, one item is selected, right? Again, card. For card also we create reusable component. Let's say in all your component you are going to showcase in all in your project, wherever you have to show the list of information, you use this kind of structure. So instead of creating this card again and again, you will be creating like this. But we need to send the data in the same format because we cannot use for employee, student. It should have some generic. Then carousel you can create, right? This reusable thing. This is the most famous example for machine test. They will ask you to create a reusable carousel. How many inputs you will be needing over here? How many inputs you
Image
will be need? Array of images or string of images?
array.
No, string of images is also work, no?
Yeah, also work. In that actually we can provide limited.
Right. You just need list of images what you need to display over here. So then you will be using a for loop over here. Okay. Let's say on click of it, you need to send the current image back to the parent component. You can use the output also, but that is optional. Okay. So whatever the logic we have it over here. See, this is the repeated image. This we need to iterate in the for loop. Try to create this. It's a very good example. We need to on click of it, we need to change it also, right? Current image. Try to create this logic. Okay. Then you must have seen that show more on share list. Show more on this. See this functionality. Where do we use this kind of functionality? कहाँ पे use,
Description.
right? Let's say you have a table and inside the table you want to showcase some information and that information can be long. Okay. If you show all the information, whatever you got into there, so your table alignment might break. Okay. So there we use it. So by default, we will show the limited number of character. And if you click on it, then we will show all the character. Again, if I click again, limited character. How many inputs we will be needing if you have to create a reusable component of this? How many inputs? क्या क्या
This
डेटा भेजोगे यहाँ पे?
this description
Description. Then
and but
how many characters you have to showcase by default, right?
hmm,
In every component, it can be anything, now. Let's say you are displaying the information in card. In card, you have very less space. So let's say only 10 characters you will show. In table, you have to show 20 characters like that. Okay, so two input, text and number of character. And this read hide and show logic you will write in your child component. See, JavaScript, this they have handled this by using CSS, but when we have to write, we have to write it. We have to code for it also. Okay. Then on that button we have seen. You're getting the idea, right? How many ways there are. Breadcrumbs also is an example. This is also dynamic we can create, right? So we can pass the array of string like this and it dynamically breadcrumbs will be created. Pagination. This is also one of the reusable component we can create. So many examples are there. Multiple tabs. See, this same example we have seen, but our structure was we were using that button group. Understood? Tabs also same structure. See, okay. Table also we can create dynamic, but table I won't be explaining right now. Once we move to some of the again advanced concept, then I will show the table. How do we create a dynamic table? Clear everyone? Why we need reusable components? Anyone having any doubt? Okay.
also
Yeah. Now one more small topic I have to explain. Coming back to our API call. So in API call till now, what we have done, we have just completed a basic CRUD operation. where we have very straightforward object. Okay. Do we have any foreign key over here?
No.
Right? We don't have any foreign key. Do we have any foreign key over here?
Loans.
Hmm?
Loan.
No. Check properly. Do we have any foreign key over here?
Yes, sir.
Which one?
Application ID.
No, application. See, what's the API name? New application. Application ID is not a foreign key. No, this is primary key.
Oh.
Customer ID is a
And
foreign key.
yeah, customer ID. Sorry.
Okay. Then bus booking. So add new user. Do we have any foreign key over here?
No.
Right? If I check post bus booking, how many foreign keys are over here?
Customer ID.
Mhm.
Schedule ID.
Right? So this is primary key, booking ID. This is foreign key. This is also foreign key. Okay. Then here, do we have foreign key?
No.
Right? Location ID, this is our primary key. And this bus location we might be using when we have to create a bus schedule. So see, schedule ID is our primary key, vendor ID is our foreign key, and from location and to location. I didn't add the ID, but these are foreign key. Okay. Now for this we have to take an example.
सर उसको आइडेंटिफाई कैसे करे कि वो फॉरेन की है करके?
API के नाम से समझेगा ना?
हाँ मतलब इंडेक्सिंग भी तो रह सकता है मतलब।
नहीं नहीं ऐसा नहीं। जैसा देखो, अब मैंने अगर क्रिएट एम्प्लॉय की API देखी, सो इनसाइड दैट व्हाट इज द फॉर प्राइमरी की? अपनी
Employee ID.
API क्या है? क्रिएट एम्प्लॉय। सो
Yes.
ऑब्वियसली एम्प्लॉय की API तो एम्प्लॉय आईडी अपनी प्राइमरी की है। अब इसमें
हाँ
देखो DPT आईडी है।
डिपार्टमेंट आईडी।
सो
Okay.
ये ऑब्वियसली फॉरेन की होगी
यस
और हमेशा आईडी ही होगा। ओके।
हमेशा वो जीरो से ही स्टार्ट होगा क्या?
इंटीजर है ना, प्राइमरी की
हाँ
हमेशा इंटीजर ही रहता है, इसलिए 0 दिखेगा।
ओके
ओके, समझा ना?
यस हाँ
वैसे ही अगर हम क्रिएट प्रोजेक्ट देखते हैं, अब यहाँ पे नहीं है, हाँ यहाँ पे भी एक फॉरेन की, बताओ कौन सी है?
Lead by employee ID.
राइट।
एम्प्लॉय आईडी।
उसके बाद ऐड न्यू ऑन लीव टाइप, यहाँ पे
नहीं, यहाँ
एम्प्लॉय
पे
फॉरेन की कौन सी है?
एम्प्लॉय आईडी
देखो ना, अपने एपीआई का नाम क्या है? ऐड न्यू
लीव।
ऑन लीव। ऑन लीव ऐड करने का एपीआई है, तो ऑन लीव आईडी, दिस इज अवर प्राइमरी की, दिस इज अवर फॉरेन की। ओके, देन क्रिएट न्यू लीव रिक्वेस्ट। यहाँ पे बताओ फॉरेन की कौन सी है?
एम्प्लॉय
एपीआई
आईडी
का
Employee
एपीआई का
ID.
नाम क्या है? क्रिएट न्यू लीव रिक्वेस्ट। आप नया लीव रिक्वेस्ट क्रिएट कर रहे हो। सो लीव आईडी इज अवर प्राइमरी की, एम्प्लॉय आईडी इज अवर फॉरेन की, एंड लीव टाइप आईडी इज ऑल्सो अवर फॉरेन की। कौन से टाइप का लीव? सिक लीव है, कैजुअल लीव है? अंडरस्टूड द कंसेप्ट नाउ? ओके, तो यही एग्जांपल देखो।
on the basis of this we create a relationship, right?
Relationship is already created in the database. You app from Angular side, we don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so let's try to create the post operation of this. Okay. So this is post get all request. Let's try to, if we have the data. Yeah. Okay. So some data is already there. But I'm not passing the data. Okay. I think I forgot to add the join. Anyway, let me find another, because then you won't understand like what data we are passing is getting or not. Get batch. We will use this. Okay, enrollment. सो ये कौन सा था, इंस्टीट्यूट मैनेजमेंट का प्रोजेक्ट है, उसमें हम व्हाट डू विल डू फर्स्ट, फर्स्ट वी विल क्रिएट द स्टूडेंट्स, देन वी विल क्रिएट द बैच, student is created, batch is created, then we have to enroll. Okay, then we have to enroll a student into a batch. So for that we have this enrollment API. Okay, so this we will try. Let's close everything. Ng generate component enrollment. Okay, so we have created our component, then we have to create the routes. Enrollment. Fine, then let's add the route also. Fine, now it is the component. So this is our object. ओके, अब मुझे ये ऑब्जेक्ट अगर हम देखते हैं, सो वी हैव एनरोलमेंट आईडी, सो इन फॉर्म डू वी टेक एनरोलमेंट आईडी, डू वी शो प्राइमरी की इन अवर फॉर्म,
No.
right? So this we don't have to worry. Student ID is there, so student ID and batch ID, two foreign keys are over here. Okay, so let's just first design the form. So dot row dot call 3 label, here will we select student, input form control. This is first one, then second one is for batch. Copy paste. And what do we have? Total fees, enrollment dates. Total fees and enrollment date. For date we will need date, input type date. Then what do we have? Discount and narration. So here only I will have discount. Text and narration. Text area. Okay, narration. Okay, so we have got our form, then we will need our save and cancel button. Button class. Fine. Now, so if we go to enrollment, this is our form. So now over here, if you see the API, we need to pass student ID and batch ID. Okay, but student ID and batch ID, you cannot pass anything, right? You have to pass the ID from over here, get student or something, right? This ID, like which student you are going to enroll. This ID you need to pass. And in batch also, you need to pass the batch ID, whatever you get from over here. .NET, like whatever the batch ID over here. So if we have a text box, how you will pass the ID which is there in the student or the batch? We cannot, no? How you will know the student ID?
It should appear all automatically
So what we have to
from
do
batch
it over here,
link written.
right? So here we need to show the student drop down, and here we need to show the student, batches created. Then user can create properly, select can properly, correct? So whenever
Okay.
we have a foreign key in our object, and that foreign key data we are going to get from some another API, like student ID and batch ID. These are foreign keys. So we should have a get student and get batch API over here somewhere. That data we need to showcase over here in a drop down. Okay. So concept is whenever you are trying to create a CRUD operation and you have some foreign key in your object. So first check like what is the foreign key, and let it's if it's a student ID, check if from what API you are going to get the student data. And that data you need to display over here in a drop down, not a text box. Because user, we have to provide a selection to the user. How user will know na, what ID we need to send. Okay. Understood the scenario of foreign key?
Yes, sir. But in this case, might be the student same two student have same ID, same name.
No, how
ID
ID will be
different,
unique
correct?
na, because this is primary key na in
Primary key,
student
correct?
table. So obviously it will be different.
Then how?
Yeah.
Suppose I'm user, right?
Hmm.
I'm not aware about the behind thing. So suppose here
Yeah. Let me
in yeah,
let me complete first. So
okay.
now in enrollment component, instead of text box over here, we have to use drop down. Select option, select student. Just like that over here also, instead of text box, we will need drop down with batch. Now here we have to show the dynamic drop down of the student. So inside this component on the page load, we will call our get all student and get all batch API. On in it, and on in it, get all students. Okay. HTTP API call we have to do. So HTTP is equal to inject HTTP client. I'm not creating in the service here, only I'm writing the API. So this dot HTTP dot get, we need the student API. That is this API. We have to provide it over here. Dot subscribe from bracket result colon any. Okay. Whatever the data we get from this API, we need to store it also in a variable. Student list colon any. Okay. And the data we get from this API will be stored into this variable. Just like this, we will have another function, get batches, and we need another API from where we are going to get the batches. Get batches. Okay. Just like student list, we will need batch list colon any. And these two function we will call on the page load. So by default, our data should be ready, na? So that it will be visible in the drop down. Okay. So now what will happen on the page load? We are calling these two functions. So we will call the API call, and whatever the data we get from this API call, that we are storing it over here. Now this variable, we will use it over here to iterate. So at the rate for loop option. Now here we need to bind property binding value. Okay. So in item dot, what's the property name? Stud ID. See, always try to copy paste. See here I is small. So always copy paste. Don't assume and write. Student ID, we will bind it over here. And here we have to show the student name. Name over here. Just like that. Over here also we need the for loop. Instead of batch list, it will be on the batch list. And batch ID. See here I is capital. So I must have forgotten to add like that. So that's why always copy paste. And batch name. If I save, see, student we got and the batch we got. Okay. Understood?
सर ये एपीआई का डाटा कहाँ कहाँ से आ रहा है सर?
एपीआई का डेटा कहाँ से आ रहा है? मतलब एपीआई से।
जो एपीआई मतलब कहाँ पे, कुछ सर्वर पे है या फिर लोकल?
सर्वर है ना, ये डेटाबेस, ये होस्टेड सर्वर है ना मेरा,
अच्छा,
वहां से डेटाबेस है बना हुआ,
हम्म।
राइट, वहां से आता है।
मेरे पास भी है, स्टैटिक आईपी वगैरह है, तो मैं भी बना सकता हूँ मेरे खुद के सिस्टम
नहीं,
को।
ये शेयर्ड सर्वर है मेरा।
अच्छा, मेरे को गो डैडी पे कहीं लेना पड़ेगा यूँ?
हाँ, लेना पड़ेगा।
तो डोमेन तो लिया हुआ है।
सर्वर भी लेना पड़ेगा, तब जाके तुम होस्ट कर पाओगे ना एपीआई।
अच्छा।
डोमेन इज नॉट इनफ ओनली। Okay, so see, now we have added that value. So if you see the drop down, here we got the value. So if you select some student, so when you click on the save, Chetan will not go. The ID of Chetan 10 will go in the object. Same like that in the batch also. Whatever the batch you select, that ID will go in the object. That's why whenever we bind a drop down and the drop down data is coming from the API, in value we bind the primary key, and while displaying we have to display whatever we need. So that when we save the enrollment in stud ID, whatever the student you select is ID will go, and same in the batch ID, that ID will go. Remaining things are same. How do you write the API call, post and everything? Just whenever, just check the object. Whenever in your object you have foreign keys, see from which API you are going to get the student record, from which API you get the batch record, and that API you will call, and whatever the data you get, that you will bind it over here in the drop down like this. So you now user can select the student. He doesn't have to worry about the ID. Understood?
Yes, sir.
So whatever the scenarios I have explained earlier, like this is foreign key, this is foreign key, like that you can do.
So
Clear?
how it will tackle the if suppose have a same name,
How you will
how it will tackle this like a duplicate.
du duplicate? As I said,
Duplicate.
na.
I mean to say that ID is proper, right?
Huh.
But might be the name will be same, right?
Name can be anything. Now we see in a table, uh, might be possible. Now while inserting the data in the batch, I have added again collection. See, let's say this batch .NET is already exist, right?
Is
Okay, if I try to create one more batch with the same name, I will get the error. Create batch, try it out. I'm passing the same batch name. This batch name is already there. If I click on execute, see, I'm getting error. Sequence contains more than element. So in API side, I have written the logic that batch name
okay.
should be unique. So batch name
Okay.
is also unique. Okay.
Okay.
So wherever you have foreign key, right? So you need to show the drop down and you need to see like that whatever the foreign key. If it's a student ID, you will have student API. If it's a batch ID, you have batch API. Like that, you have to do. Post API will be same. No changes in post API. You will create this object and you will bind it over here. Okay. Clear everyone?
Yes.
Anyone having any doubt?
Sir, can I ask? Mm, okay, sir. Complete it first. Then actually I have a query regarding API only.
Okay, just wait for some time. Anyone else having any doubt? Okay, fine. So we can stop for today then. Yeah, you can share. Want to share, Suraj?
Yes, sir. Let me see.
Others can leave.